Welcome to the Studio Business Accelerator podcast. I'm Evan Wedsworth.
And I'm Mago Lauritsen.
And today we are delighted to have another member of our team with us, Nicole, our special guest. She's going to help us out with our topic today, which is customer service and remembering what it's like to be a beginner. Nicole, if you wouldn't mind, you give a quick introduction, and we all know you very well, of course, but just for the listener.
Hi guys, thanks for having me today. Glad to be here. I am Nicole, and I come with quite a bit of experience, both as a dancer, as a studio director. I am Nicole, and I come with quite a bit of experience, both as a dancer, as a studio director, and now as I am helping Mago consult other dance studios. So I'm glad to be here and help join the conversation of customer service.
Yeah, and I know that Nicole's probably pretty humble about her experience and that kind of stuff. I wanted to just point out a couple of things. She was the studio manager for our businesses and involved in literally every facet of the business for more than a decade. And so having her on our consulting team as an associate consultant and working with our other clients and that kind of stuff, she brings just an amazing amount of experience. Most of you who already know anything about me know that I'm not like an accomplished dancer. That's not my thing. That's not the talent that I bring to the studio business world. And so I have had to, over the years, rely on people like Nicole to kind of bring that extra, in some ways, much more capable than me in working with studios and kind of understanding what they're going through from the artistic point as well. And then also I think that, just in boots on the ground experience, dealing with developing the systems that we've developed and dealing with the problems and things that we've dealt with over the years. Like, she just has an amazing amount of experience there. So I'm really excited about having her here today.
Me too. So we thought we'd talk a little bit about remembering what it's like to be someone seeking out classes from a studio business. I think that especially as someone who, maybe you've been an owner of the business, if you've danced for decades or you have any kind of higher education, it's a little bit difficult to put yourself back in the shoes of someone looking for classes, and you forget how confusing it can be sometimes. When we're working with the clients, sometimes used on just simple things like, what is contemporary dance? I have no idea what that is. And so if I were to seek something like that out, I would have some trouble, right? I would need some help. And unfortunately, we've all had some bad experiences recently trying to look for some classes. So we thought we'd share those a little bit, a couple of examples of things that did not go so well, little anecdotes to talk about ways that we can do better down the road.
I'll just jump in first and kind of riff off of your intro there for a second. Most of the new students that you're going to be enrolling in your studio are beginner students, and they are much more naive a lot of times than we would like them to be. They don't understand how your program works. I know you do. You're the expert on that. You're the authority on that. But they don't understand necessarily how your program works. And so educating them, it's like we got to educate people before we can sell them a thing. And so focusing on that piece of your customer service systems is generally a really, really important place to start out. Okay. So, obviously you're going to want to treat all of your customers very, very well. But if we're starting to talk about putting customer service management systems in place to handle these things, we want to start with that because it's the largest group of people that are that you're going to have an influence on as you're bringing people in and selling your stuff to them. Okay. And so as we were thinking about that with, that issue, and then I was meeting with Nicole in our daily stand-up this week, and she shared an experience about what she had gone through. Because not only is she an accomplished studio manager and dancer and everything herself, she's also a mom, right, who tries to enroll her kids in classes and things. And Nicole, I was wondering if you could just kind of share that experience that you had with trying to get your kids started in the classes you were trying to get them into, and how that went. Do you mind taking a moment just talking about that?
Yeah, no problem. So we just recently moved to Texas, and Texas, no problem. So we just recently moved to Texas, and Texas being a big warm state, swimming is pretty important. And so we have a pool in our backyard. I figured it'd be best if both my children, 8 and 4, probably knew how to swim and swim well, just in case. And so Swim lessons are a big deal here. So I went online, and of course there's quite a few swim schools, there's private lessons, and of course there's a lot of swim teams that you can sign up for. So there's this local swim team or local swim school just down the road. And I went on the website, tried to get some information, just a basic phone number to call or an email so I could shoot off some questions. Nothing on the website. It did talk a little bit about the fact that they are a swim school and that they offer swim lessons, but nothing much after that. There was a link to schedule an intro call, but the intro call would only be offered on Mondays or Thursdays, 8 a.m. or 4 p.m. So you had to sign up for one of those intro calls. So I went ahead and did that. Waited all weekend, came to it on Monday at 4 o'clock. It was a Zoom call, and it was with about 30 other parents. And this person came on, and she began speaking about this swim school and how many different locations they have over the United States, spread out everywhere. So then she began her intro telling about what they teach, how they teach, but it was just a very broad discussion, and it lasted for over 20 minutes. And then she opened it up to questions. Now, in this whole time, she didn't talk about scheduling or what was available in my area. And so, I waited until and she said she would send me an email with more specific information for the location that's nearest me. So I waited for that email. I received the email. I went online to try and then register my kids. And the options that she discussed, the weekday options, were not listed. And so then I sent out another follow-up email to her saying, I'm looking for the classes that you discussed at the intro. And she wrote back saying, well, I'm sorry, your area school does not offer those classes that we discussed. So here I am a week later after going through all of that, and still I'm not registered for swim lessons for my kids.
And when you told me that story, I could hear the frustration in your voice, having invested all this time and excited about what you were doing. Probably the kids were excited about being able to get started in this stuff as right now. Good chance, and trust me, we're not trying to bash on anybody else's school here. We would like to point out what lots of studios are doing incorrectly, because then we can fix it and it will have a benefit for all of us. But the point isn't to bash the school. It was probably some kind of a franchise thing that this swim school is part of, right? That's probably how this system works. And they are probably sold on this idea that this is going to be super convenient and awesome and helpful for all of the parents because, look at this system we have. We'll do an orientation call. So, we'll schedule their classes and it'll be all done online and automated. And then people will just show up and you can just teach the classes, right? And that's a pretty compelling sales pitch for this kind of a system. And then your experience with it was exactly the opposite, right? It was bad enough of an experience that, it's probably soured you to this company. Even if you end up enrolling at some other location or something like that, like your opinion of this company is now sort of forever tarnished. Your opinion of this company is now sort of forever tarnished. We only get, it's cliche, but we only get one chance to make a good first impression. And there's actually been quite a bit of there's been a lot of studies and a bunch of data on this, that you do not consistently, when we're talking about customer service in any industry, you do not consistently have to be wowing everybody. You don't have to consistently be delivering above and beyond. It doesn't mean you shouldn't be doing that, but that's not really what gets people to retain and gets people to stick around. You just really need to not screw up. If you can just, when you talk about, you say, okay, what's a company that you could recommend to me that you would just absolutely love and you would absolutely recommend to me? And you have to think about that a little bit. And then I ask you, well, what's a company that you would recommend that I never do business with? Generally, a few of us have a couple of those on the forefront of our mind, and it's because we've had some horrible customer experience with them, customer service experience with them, and that's what we remember. So if we can just not screw up, right, that's a big piece of this. But another kind of thing that I just wanted to comment, an experience that I had this week. I had a couple, and the fact that all of us have had recently these experiences with being a beginner in something and kind of having a negative customer service thing means that there's a problem in this industry, in these instructional studios. I was reviewing a dance studio website this week for a potential client, and they have this little widget on their website that's like, hey, schedule a free trial. And it's really kind of a cool idea, and I can understand why people would be enamored with, you know, this little widget that they have on their website. You click on this little widget, and it takes you to this little third-party website, and it says, choose the age of the person you're going to put in a class, choose the class that you want, and choose the day that you would like to come to a free trial. And so I just started testing that. I just started trying it out, and I clicked on, you know, the child's age, and I just picked one at random, and I clicked on a class. It was, how about hip hop? And then what day? Okay, how about Tuesdays? And nothing happened. There was no button that popped up. There was nothing that said that class isn't available on that day, choose another day. Nothing happened. So I tried it a little bit different. I tried all of the days of the week. Couldn't get any of them to change or come up. Went back and changed the age of the student, changed to a contemporary class, and then changed this, you know, and it was absolutely frustrating. Like, as a parent, if I was trying to enroll my student in a free trial, I would have just hit the back button and gone back to the Google listing and figured out what studio was next on the list and hey, if you're having trouble scheduling, we'll help you. There was none of that. But what was really interesting to me was that I guarantee you, when that studio owner first heard about this system that could do this for them, it was just common sense. Oh yeah, that'll be great. That'll be so convenient for the users. We'll put that on our website. It'll be awesome. And what actually turned out was the absolute opposite. It's going to be a horrible experience right on the front end, and it's going to start seeding in their minds, you know, well, if they can't get their act together about this, you know, what else are they not good at, you know, and then that's what you're preparing people to think about your studio. And then Evan, you also had another experience. It's been a little bit, but can you share that one about moving to a new state and trying to find a new workout and that kind of thing?
Yeah, definitely. Real quick comment on what you said. The insidious part of that is that the studio owner will never know that you tried to look at these classes and then you left. They have no way to check that how many people are they losing to that kind of thing, right? They just won't see them come into the funnel. So for me, I recently moved to a new town, new state, don't know anybody, was looking for some classes in the area for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I have a small amount of Jiu-Jitsu experience and thought, oh, maybe I'll pick it up again. That'd be nice. Found a place locally. It was not far away from my house. Gave him a call, and the guy answers the phone. Hello? It's like,
yeah.
David, I'm looking for jiu-jitsu classes, maybe? Do I have the wrong number? It was the correct number. He was super friendly. And then I said, well, you know, I was just interested in maybe taking a class with you. And he said, yeah, we have class at 7 o'clock tonight. You can come by. Okay, sounds good, I guess. But I think right there, a little bit wrong-footed. You know, I don't personally know what to expect at that point. I know I'm supposed to turn up at 7 o'clock and there's a class, but is it a group class? Is it an intro? A little bit wrong-footed. You know, I don't personally know what to expect at that point. I know I'm supposed to turn up at 7 o'clock and there's a class, but is it a group class? Is it an intro? You know, are there any accommodations being made for me, the beginner, doesn't know anything? Who knows? So I showed up for the class. The class is just a regular group class. The instructor was super friendly. The class itself was really good and well taught, and I had a good time. And then after class, he came by with a little folder that had some paper in it that was about, you know, policies and tuition rates, and you know, this is our program and this is what we do, blah blah blah. So he gave me maybe a 5-minute spiel on that, and I was ready to sign up. This is what I want. I want to come take classes. I'm in a new town. I don't know anybody. This is a good place for me to meet somebody new. I had a good time during class. I'm ready to go. And he pulls out a new form and it has a web address on there, and he started in my hand going, wait a minute, I thought this was your job to sign me up for classes. Now I got to do your job for you? Yeah. And so I didn't hand him the debit card because he didn't ask for it. He just gave me this folder and sent me on my way. And I when I walked out the door that night, I fully intended to sign up for classes. I was like, yeah, absolutely. But then I got home and I showered and I made some dinner, and then I was tired. And then the next day it seemed a little bit less important. And then the day after that, less important, and I just never signed up. I never clicked the link and signed up, and so that's, you know, this person has one less student because they're putting the onus on me, the beginner, And there are so many other things in my life that I could be doing rather than taking jujitsu classes. And as soon as I was reminded of that when I got out the door, I was like, yeah, I'll find something else to do.
Yeah, that transfer of enthusiasm, right? That the time that the student is the most enthusiastic about the program that they're going to enroll in, probably right after they come in and try it out for the first time. Like, there's a really good chance that's the case. It's not when they hit your website. It's not just after they talk to you on the phone. Those can be, there can be some excitement about the program at those points. But like, if you're not having them come in and do some kind of an intro or something like that, and then getting them very excited about your program, you're going to have a hard time enrolling as many people as you possibly could. And just want to reiterate again, what's really, I think, salient about Evan's experience there is that he had every intent to enroll in this class and sign up and was excited about it and looking forward to it, and didn't. Right? And didn't. And the instructor was great, and the instructor was friendly, and the instructor provided a good service, and then just was not able to kind of hold your hand and walk you through that process. We often forget what it's like to be a beginner. We know how things should. We call that technique, by the way, that sales closing technique, the catch and release technique, because they had you, man. They got you in, and they got you right to the finish line, and then weren't able to push it over at all. Just a couple of other really quick experiences, and then I'm going to pick on Nicole in a second here and have her talk a little bit about some of the processes at our studios and why we think, how we walk people through these things. And I think, we Anna, who does a lot of administrative work at our studio. She manages the front desk team. Is a mother as well, and has a parkour program that she's had her kids enrolled in, Little Ninjas class at one of the gyms here in town, and loves the program, and her kids loves the program. And it was time for her to go online and re-enroll in the program, which is a mistake, of course, as well. But she took the initiative to go and do that and sign her kids up for the next session of this thing. And some glitch happened in the software, and she ended up enrolling her son into this program. Into this program 11 times somehow. Like, she didn't click the button 11 times. It was just something that happened. Once again, no phone number, no email, tried to call the studio, couldn't get a hold of anybody. And she's worried now that, that her card's going to get charged 11 times. And why was she even able to enroll one child in that class that many times anyway? It's just, there's this consistent thing that we're seeing, where studios believe that by automating these processes, that what they're doing is they're creating a better customer service experience. And generally it's not. How many studios do I talk to that, have some kind of a supposedly, really super awesome enrollment process, and they end up with a parent that comes and puts their 6-year-old in a ballet level 6 class because they don't understand the schedule and end up enrolling in the wrong thing, right? How often do I hear that kind of a thing happen? So let's shift a little bit from bashing on other studios and other programs. That's not what we're trying to do. But what I am trying to do is point out that the lack of that quality of customer service, of hand holding through the introduction and the enrollment process that happens in this industry affects all of us, right? Because people are starting to expect that kind of an experience from all of the instructional studios that they interact with. Like, that's just kind of what they're expecting to have happen. I signed up for a little personal training, a little circuit training, weight training thing at a local gym here, and the instructor is great. And I've gone and taken 6 classes, and I have no idea how to pay the guy. And I've said to him, "Say, should we settle up now?" And he says, "Well, let's just do it on Thursday or whatever." And it's like, nice guy, great guy, absolutely dropping the ball on this front end customer service. So Nicole, maybe you can talk about a couple of the sort of highlights of what we do in our systems and how we try and in a sense go the extra mile and go a little bit over the top compared to some of these other processes, right? With getting people to understand what they're getting themselves into. Maybe we can talk just very briefly. I don't want to go into the details, but maybe briefly about the prospect pipeline. The other thing is the instructor handoff and the sandwich that we do. We call it the sandwich when they hand off the new student that comes into the studio to the front desk. And can you just comment a little bit about the value of those processes and why we do those things and sort of the problems that they solve for us on that front end customer service issue?
Sure. Yeah. No, I'd love to. I think where I'd like to start is, in that first in that first time frame when you're actually gathering the information from that prospect. And a lot of times I know businesses feel like they need to gather as much information as they possibly can up front. But sometimes that you have a conversation with them and get to know them, and that's where you gather some of that upfront information. So we don't always need to know maybe the age or the parent's name. Let's have that engagement in the first conversation and then go from there, and really trying to put that person in the right program or right place that they should be. Whether
I'm going to let you finish, but I'm going to interrupt you right here because what you said is so profound, right? Like how much it is so sad that what you just said, that little piece, having a conversation with somebody before you try to sell them something, is profound. How sad is it that that's different than what most studios are doing? Most studios have not earned the right to sell anything to anybody yet at the point when they're trying to sell them something. Let's find out who this person is and what problem they have, and then maybe we can solve it or not. That would have solved your problem, right? Before you spent a week going through orientations and trying to figure out schedules and trying to play phone tag with people, if they had just talked to you and said, oh, where are you at? What do you need? Cool. Let's see if we're not a good fit. Here's what you should do instead. That would have solved your problem in 15 minutes, right? But instead, they made a decision that was convenient for them and hyper inconvenient for you. Okay, thank you. Off my soapbox. Go ahead.
No. And just to even riff off of that, I mean, even more so important as a parent, because as a parent, you have children that have different needs in different areas, and they want to be heard. They want to know that their child is going to fit into the right place of whatever you're offering. So even more important to have those conversations with each parent about that child.
Yeah, fantastic. And they don't know really what they want, okay? Most studio owners are making this mistake of thinking, well, when I get them on the phone, I ask them what is it that they're interested in. Well, they might not really know. It's like Evan was saying, if Evan wants to enroll himself or somebody else in a dance class, he doesn't. Well, they might not really know. It's like Evan was saying, if Evan wants to enroll himself or somebody else in a dance class, he doesn't know the difference between modern and contemporary or, those kind of things. And so maybe you as the authority is who ought to be telling them that, helping them to figure that out and walking them through that so that they can make that decision. Okay.
Right. Great. So then, coming off of having that first conversation and maybe getting them into the right place and getting them scheduled to come in, once they've actually stepped foot in your studio, it's important that you gather more information at that point and really know what they're looking for that child. And some of the techniques that we use is just a simple form that asks, what are they trying to accomplish while they're here, while they're taking this program? And it may not necessarily be a movement, a dance movement, or something, confidence, or be more secure in a room full of other children. And so that kind of information that you can pull in your intake form is important as well. That's one of the techniques that we like to use.
I think another thing that it does is it helps to pre-frame them for what the real value is in your program. They might not have even been thinking about that, right? It's like, oh yeah, this is going to be a great way for my child to develop social skills. This is a great way for my child to build confidence. This is a great way for me to accomplish the other things. And you're demonstrating a significant amount of value by seeding those ideas to them. So that's a big piece of it as well. So thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah. And as the owner and as the teacher, that's beneficial as you have that person in your classroom, whether it be an adult or a child. Those kind of goals, knowing what they're looking for and what they're working towards, is important to try and capture, especially in that first impression that you make when they come into the studio and they take that first class.
Yeah, and this way you know what to expect, they know what to expect, you've managed their expectations, they understand that there's more that they can accomplish in the class than just learning the art form, whatever that is that you happen to be teaching, and everybody's kind of on the same page before the sales process. Man, it's such a better way to do things. Is it more work? Absolutely. Is that part of the key for why we are able to charge 3 times as much in tuition rates as my competitors 3 blocks away? Absolutely. It's also part of the key for sure.
Yeah. And so then, there are a lot of places where, you may be the instructor or the teacher and you may be doing the sales. As Mago said, it's key to try and hone in on the time frame where they're most excited. Just as Evan said, he was ready to sign up right then and there after that great class. So let's hone in on that perfect time to try and make sure that they understand what you're offering it. So as part of that strategy, we offer what we call the enrollment conference right after their first class. And this is just to make sure that they have the information and that they know what is next. What is that next step? Now, many studios just kind of say, okay, great job. You had a great time in class. We're so glad to have you. We'll see you next time. And just let them walk out the door. And that's where we drop the ball. We really want to make sure that we're having that teacher hand them off to the person who's going to be giving that enrollment conference or that information on what's next. Now, sometimes that may be the same person. The teacher's giving that information to that student, but sometimes you've got a front desk. So we want to make sure that those two people are communicating and handing that prospect off so that they're getting the right information without walking out the door.
And that's an important enough piece of this process that I think a lot of people miss, that we role play that in our staff meetings. Like, that's how important this is. We teach our staff a very specific script. When somebody's new for the first time in their class, they're not going to just, okay, see you later, thanks for being here, maybe talk to the front desk or go find our website and enroll in a class or whatever. They're not doing that. What's happening is they're very specifically thinking through the class, what's one thing this child's doing well, what's one thing they need to improve on. And then they're walking with the child and the parent up to the front desk and saying, hey, Sally did really well in class today. She obviously has some really good timing, but she needs to work a little bit on her flexibility. This is Miss Anna at the front desk. She's going to talk to you a little bit about enrollment options. There's some great deals that they have going today if you want to sign up today, and I'll see you in class on Thursday. So there's this like legit handoff that has intent behind it, that demonstrates value. Everybody's paying attention to the right thing, and it's just a significantly different experience. Like, Evan would be training in that jiu-jitsu studio today if that kind of a thing had happened to him. And Evan, I don't know if you have any insight on kind of that process. You've been, of course, involved in our studios for a long time. And, are there any other places that you see, especially on the front end, that the systems that we've implemented kind of manage the customer service, experience for those people? Can you think of any of those?
Yeah, well, I was an instructor for a long time. And as an instructor, it's helpful to have a script to follow, or even to just know what your assignment is, especially with a beginner student, when you have to manage. I'm teaching a class for say 10 people that have been around for 3 to 6 months, and then this one person who's brand new, and you have to balance that, of course, inside the class. And then at the end of the class, you have to do the same little balancing act where you have to make sure that everyone's okay, but also you want to attend to this new student. And it's really helpful to go through their enrollment conference. You have this assignment in your head. And for me, it always helped me stay organized and also not get too sidetracked, especially if I'm going to teach a second class after that. I know I get done with my class, I'm going to check, make sure everyone's okay, and then I'm going to go right to that new student. I'm going to start having a conversation with them. Hey, how'd you feel about class? How you doing? Feeling okay? And then as they're gathering their stuff, I'm saying, okay, well, let me walk you up to the front desk and we'll talk a little bit about what's next. As we're walking to the front desk, I'm talking to them a little bit more about what happened in class, and then I'm going to hand them over to the admin staff. And I don't know how many studio owners or dance directors have this experience. If any of your staff are maybe socially not so gifted, which was the case with me, for a long time, I didn't know what to say at all, and I'm always kind of relying on the other person to carry the conversation, which is just not a good dynamic when you're the instructor and you're trying to get the beginner to run the conversation for you. It's not great. And if you have instructors under you who sound like they might be like me, I think this is a really helpful thing for them, and it helps keep the kind of the ethos of the class clean and not get muddy at all. And then too, that gives the instructor time to get to know the new student, and of course the student is going to appreciate that. They have a lot of thoughts and feelings about what they just went through in their first class, and they want to talk to somebody about it, and they may as well just talk to the instructor. And I've been I've moved several times over the last few years, like I said, I tried that jiu-jitsu studio. I've been to Krav Maga studios. I've tried different CrossFit gyms. I've been in this position a few times over the last years of being the new person in the new area. And this kind of thing happens so rarely. I appreciate it so much when the instructor just comes up to me after the class and says, "How are you doing? How was class? How are you feeling?" That I would say less than a third of the time have I had that happen. More often it's kind of a wave and like a, "Hey, good job, see ya." And just as the new person, that doesn't feel great, right? You don't feel valued. You don't feel like the instructor particularly cares for you. And you may even feel like an inconvenience, especially if you were, maybe you were put in a group class that was a little bit more advanced and you could tell that you're struggling to keep up. And then at the end of that, the instructor kind of puts the cherry on top by being like, "Cool, see you later." No one wants to feel that way. And of course, they're not going to come back. So that script always helped me as a teacher. And I think that, Mago, you said that this is more work for the studio owner, but it gives you a checklist to follow. And I think that that's not something to be underestimated.
Yeah. And also it's like, if I don't clearly understand what's supposed to happen next, if I don't clearly understand that, there's a good chance I'm going to avoid any future potential conflict, right? And so I'm just going to do what kind of happened to you and what we've seen happen to so many other people. This little widget on this website I was talking about earlier, it's like, man, this is frustrating. I can't figure this out. It seems really simple. There's only 3 little drop downs, and I think I'm clicking the right. Like, I'm kind of embarrassed I can't figure this thing out. I'm not going to call and tell somebody that I can't figure it out. I'm going to go talk to somebody else who isn't going to make me jump through that same hoop. Like, clearly tell me what's next. Help me to manage that process. The other thing that we can take a moment to talk about too, I think, is just the intro class experience itself. Most probably studios, what they're doing is they're basically just taking somebody and sticking them in a beginner class that's already kind of running. And there's no sort of choreography. I love that word. There's no choreography of the intro class itself. And so there's no sort of like intent behind it. It's like, let's just get these people in and have them have this experience with our studio. And then our program is so awesome, they're just going to love it and they're going to enroll. And then they end up enrolling 90% of the people who come in and do those intro classes. So they've convinced themselves that they're done and they're doing a good job. Really, because that high enrollment rate, the indication there really is that they're not charging enough tuition, really is the point. But the choreography of that intro class, what are the things that I want that student to understand, or I want that parent, or I want both of them to understand by the end of that intro class that will help to, that will show them clearly what the path is that they should be taking next, right? How can I get them excited about the program? How can I create a long-term vision of the program so that they're thinking about 4 years from now in this program, right? How can I choreograph those specific things into my intro classes so that people are having that kind of an experience with it? It's not just come try a class and see if it works. There's some intent behind it. Can either of you guys maybe comment on some of those techniques? I don't want to get too deep into the strategy and the techniques of all of this, but can you think of some things that we did? I know both of you were at the live event we recently did in Las Vegas where Anne taught her capoeira intro for everybody and showed them how that happened. And can you kind of pick out some of the details of things that she has choreographed into that intro presentation so that it creates a better customer experience for everybody? Can you guys point some of those out or remember some of those?
Sure. Yeah. So one of the first things I can think of that she did was when she was, during the middle of her teaching, she was also still conversing with the student, telling them what to expect next, what movement was going to come, how they were going to, what movement was going to come, how they were going to do it, what everyone else was going to do around them, but then also talking about how long they should expect to become good at that next technique or that next step. So she was pre-framing them to say, in the next 2 to 3 months, you're going to become really familiar with how to do this step and how to do this step great. And then 6 to 12 months from now, you're going to take this to the next level and we're going to be able to do X, Y, Z. So the conversation and pre-framing of, this isn't just a today thing. This is a long-term, we're going to work at this and we're going to show you that we want you to stay committed to this program for this long in order to accomplish these goals.
transformation is going to take time, and that's what we sell is transformation, right? And helping them to understand that helps them to go, oh yeah, no, this is the thing for me, man. I'm going to get this result, and I understand my expectation. And helping them to understand that helps them to go, oh yeah, no, this is the thing for me, man. I'm going to get this result, and I understand my expectation is that I'm going to get it in, in this amount of time. Keeps people motivated. Plus, it's the kind of thing where now they're not thinking about, I'm just going to come in and do some drop-in classes or whatever, especially in the adult market. Now they're committed to this thing over the long term. And that's something that we work on with our clients in our higher level masterminds, is helping them put together a very clear progression through their systems. A lot of studios have like these lower level classes and beginner kind of recreational things. And then they have this like competition team or performance team or whatever the other higher level thing has to be. And there's no like very clear, very distinct progression through that. The martial arts world in general has done a little bit better job of that, I think. Like they're pretty good at having the belt systems and the progression. And that if you walk into a karate school, someday I'm going to be a black belt. Music schools, dance studios, a lot of adult fitness programs and things like that are not doing a good job of that. And we have some very specific things we work on with our own clients that we want them implementing that will help them do that. But how can we do that in the intro class? How can we help lay out for them and help them understand, here's where you are right now. Here's where, and very clearly that's going to happen. And you compare that to the difference between that kind of experience, like Anne laying those things out and talking about, in the first 6 months, you're going to do this, 12 months from now, you're going to be here, then we're going to move you into level 2, and like very clearly and effectively demonstrating that, all of that to them, the experience that person has, as opposed to somebody who just comes and tries out a class and thinks, oh, that was fun, right? Selling fun is not a good thing to sell. Everybody's website says our classes are fun. Like that's not a competitive edge, okay? Going to a movie or taking your kid to the ball pit in the mall is fun for them, okay? That's not the market you want to be competing with. That's a race to the bottom and a good way to turn yourself back into the Walmart of dance studios. That's good. I think something that I think that we do as well is helping people to understand that they're part of a legacy, right? What are the things that you can say to help them understand that, hey, this is what you're going to be part of? Do you have a ranking system? Do you have pictures of your higher ranked students and say, hey, one day you can be one of those things, and this is where I came from, and this is what you're going to belong to, and helping them to kind of develop that culture, like that kind of a conversation. And this we're not overcomplicating this. These are all very simple things. These are things you can accomplish by saying 2 sentences to somebody, but very important that you're doing it and doing it intentionally, right? Any other thoughts on that part of the front end customer service strategy? No? Okay. There's a lot to it. And I hope that everybody's not left with the idea here that we need to overcomplicate things. We don't. What we need to do is we need to choreograph them. We need to be intentional about them. We need to be able to say, when that person comes out of this class, I want them to know this, this, and this, and to expect this, this, and this, and to very clearly understand that the next step is this, this, and this, right? And if we can accomplish that, that's part of the secret for how we're doing all of these really crazy sort of punk rock things at our studios, by charging significantly higher tuition rates, getting longer term commitments out of students, being able to justify large down payments, and students paying thousands of dollars for beginner classes, paid in fulls up front, and those kind of things. But that has to be intentional, or you're going to end up running with the rest of the pack that's charging $60 a month for a class and $35 yearly registration fee. You're going to be stuck back in that group if you're not able to manage that. Okay. Any other last thoughts? Customer service on the front end, kind of a big deal. It's a really big topic. I think we consolidated some of the strategies and things pretty well. But this is a problem in our industry. It's not a coincidence that Evan had his experience and Nicole had her experience and I had my experiences and Anna had her experiences all within the recent past here, as we were trying to get started in something. And it's also, I think, further a little bit interesting that's so consistently the case. If we could just get this piece fixed, I think everybody's studio would be better off. Why is it that people in the community don't appreciate the arts, or that you feel like they don't appreciate the arts? Maybe we can take some responsibility for that. Maybe we can step up and make this experience more palatable for these people and help them to see the value in it and take on some of that responsibility ourselves.
I would like to add just one thing. As a mom, there are so many activities for your kids to get involved in, and it can be somewhat competitive for businesses to try and make sure that they capture the importance of what a parent wants. And so I say customer service at that forefront, making an impression and making them want to choose you is so important when there's all of these other, football and soccer and all for that child's time or for that parent's time.
I think many of the studio owners that I talk to as we're chatting with them about working together on our programs have made the mistake of assuming that when I ask them, what's the competition like in your area, they're all thinking about the people who teach the same art that they teach. And it's a mistake, especially for those in the dance studio world. And because the competition for girls and young women and even adult women to come in and participate in activities is much, much higher than it was 20 years ago. You think about like when I was a little kid, I took some Taekwondo classes, and I'd walk into those Taekwondo classes, and there were a couple of girls in the class, but it was 90% boys. I was in a soccer team, and there were a couple of girls maybe that were playing soccer when I was a little guy, but a majority was boys. And today that's not the case anymore. There's just as many girls playing soccer and taking martial arts as there are boys. That is not the case for the dance studio world, right? There are still not as many boys coming in and taking those classes as there are girls. And I don't expect that shift to happen. So like the competition for, activities, it's not just the art we teach. We're competing very directly with many, many more art forms. And that is not getting better over time. It's getting worse over time. It's becoming more challenging over time. The way that the amount of customer service that we need to be exhibiting on the front end is more today than it was 30 years ago, right? Absolutely more today.
I think that's a good place to wrap up. If you'd like to find us anywhere, we're easy to find online. Studio Business Accelerator. You can apply to join our Facebook group. A bunch of our clients are in there talking about all kinds of stuff similar to what we do here on the podcast. If you'd like to apply to work with us directly, you can check out milliondollardancestudio.com. Take a look and see if you can find us there. Join us next time.
Thank you for having me.
See you then.